Public Works, Director Lee, you have the floor.
Thank you, President Smith, Mayor Moore, and council members. The Department of Public Works is requesting approval for engineering services for the Carroll Avenue Improvement Project. The project encompasses Carroll Avenue beginning from the westerly side of southbound Washington Boulevard along Carroll Avenue for its entire length and ending at the westerly side of 7th Street, and also Carroll Avenue from Park Avenue to Nichols Avenue. This proposal is to survey, prepare plans, bidding documents, construction, and construction administrative services. The proposal work will include field investigation, utility impact evaluation, and right-of-way impact evaluation, replacement of concrete sidewalk or new sidewalks, curb and gutter, and other items as appropriate. Also, ADA compliant ramps will be designed where required. This proposal is submitted by KCI Technologies, one of the 3 contracted city engineering firms, in the amount of $58,730. Funding for the project is provided through the adopted FY 2024 CIP Carroll Avenue Street Improvements. It is recommended that a proposed amount of $58,730 for engineering services as submitted by KCI Technologies be approved, and I am available for any further questions. Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments from the council on this? All right. And this item will be on the agenda for Wednesday, October 11th, 2023, Mayor and City Council meeting.
Mr. President, what was that? We lost you.
I'm sorry. I said, sorry. Agenda item number 3 is a fleet acquisition for a 320 backhoe loader for the Department of Public Works. Director Lee, you have the floor again.
Thank you again, President Smith. The Department of Public Works is requesting approval for the purchase of a backhoe loader type heavy machinery to replace equipment that has exceeded its lifespan. This equipment comes with updated safety features, will minimize maintenance needs, and enhance productivity on our street improvement projects. The department solicited several quotes from Sourcewell and from other state and county contracts. The accepted quote is from Jesco of Waldorf, Maryland, in the amount of $159,263.26, as provided through the Sourcewell contract 032119-JDC. Based on the fleet schedule, the following equipment will be replaced. That is vehicle number 88, which is a 2004 backhoe loader. Funding is available through the adopted FY 2024 CIP Fleet Replacement Project. It is the recommendation to award this purchase of this equipment in the amount of $159,263.26 to Jesco of Waldorf, Maryland. And I'm also available for any questions on that.
Thank you, Director Lee. Are there any questions from the council or any comments? All right, well, this item will be on the agenda for Wednesday, October 11th for the Mayor and City Council meeting held in person at 6 p.m. Agenda item number 4 is a fleet acquisition for a mini rear loader refuse compost truck for the Department of Public Works. Director Lee, you have the floor again.
Thank you. This is the mini rear loader that I sort of gave you all a brief preview of previously. The Department of Public Works is requesting approval for the purchase of a mini rear loader refuse truck. This truck will be used to support the increase in residential housing, refuge, and compost pickups. The addition of this truck also allows for flexibility in placing in operation additional crews and routes as services have expanded. The mini refuse trucks are more fuel efficient, have less of an environmental impact than their larger versions, and do not require CDL, thus allowing for a larger driver's pool. The department solicited several quotes from both Sourcewell and vendors on open state and county contracts. The department received one return quote for immediate availability from TMI Truck and Equipment of Chesapeake, Virginia, who is on the Sourcewell contract 032119-JDC in the amount of $208,500. Funding is available through the adopted FY 2024 CIP Fleet Replacement Project. It is recommended to award the purchase of this vehicle in the amount of $208,500 to TMI Truck and Equipment of Chesapeake, Virginia. And I'm also available for any questions.
All right. Thank you again, Director Lee. Are there any questions or comments on this item from the council?
Mr. President, I have one.
Sure.
Director Lee, will this have the loaders that can pick up the cans with the little bar that's in the back?
Yes, they're still able to pick up the cans. On this one, because it is a special operations type, we're actually going to have what's called a pre-bid review to make sure that it's capable of it. So we'll make sure of that.
Thank you, Director. That's all.
Any other comments or questions from the council before we move forward? Okay. Well, this item will be on the agenda for Wednesday, October 11, 2023 at the Mayor and City Council meeting held in person at 6 p.m. Agenda item number 5 is an ordinance number 2018, an ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of Laurel, Maryland to amend the Unified Land Development Code, Chapter 20, Land Development and Subdivision Regulations to update the design guidelines for Historic District Commission and create a sale affordable housing section. Director Love, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. President, Mayor, and council members. Before you is ordinance number 2018 as required by the City of Laurel Code, providing legislation to amend the Laurel City Code, Chapter 11, Planning and Development, Article 3, Affordable Housing Program, and the Unified Land Development Code, Chapter 20, Land Development and Subdivision Regulations, Article 1, Zoning. This is to amend the Unified Land Development Code and City Code, Chapter 20, Land Development and Subdivision Regulations to update the design guidelines for Historic District Commission and to create a for sale affordable housing section. This is the 8th phase of the code update. The proposed change, the first proposed change would update 15 sections of the Historic District Commission guidelines. Some of the highlights of this include consideration of financial hardship when reviewing applications, encouraging the installation of pervious paving or paving strips for driveways, requiring a letter from a certified arborist or Maryland licensed tree expert when removing a diseased or dying tree, requiring of the planting of a tree if one is removed from a lot unless determined by the HCC to have adequate landscaping on said lot, and allowing staff approval of certain window material and tax credits. At the HCC work session held on September 19th, all members present recommend approval of the proposed HCC guideline changes. We also are adding the first for sale affordable housing language into the city code. Some of the requirements include a minimum of 50 single-family detached townhouse and or condominium dwelling units or residential portions of mixed-use developments that include the same type and minimum number of dwelling units. 8% of the total number of the dwelling units shall be developed and sold as affordable housing. The price of each affordable dwelling unit in the development shall not exceed 30% of the median price of each similar unit type in the development at the time of a contract for any such affordable unit is entered into. And the eligibility for any affordable dwelling unit shall be a household income no greater than 60% of the median income in Prince George's County, adjusted for the household size as determined annually by the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development. We see this ordinance as evolving over time with the changing landscape of the housing market. We talked and read different for sale ordinances around the area to find that they are all very different in the way they determine the house cost. So we worked with the city solicitor to come up with the makeup of the ordinance before you. Overall, there were 16 sections amended in this update. Thank you, and I'm here for questions.
Right, are there any questions or comments on this item before we move forward? All right, well, this item will be on the agenda for Wednesday, October 11th, 2023 at the Mayor and City Council meeting held in person at 6 p.m. Thanks, Director Love. Agenda item number 6 is ordinance number 2019, an ordinance amending the general operating budget and capital improvement program for the Mayor and City Council of Laurel, Maryland, fiscal year July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024, and to provide an effective date. Director Saylor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, everyone. At the bottom of page 1 of the ordinance, Ordinance 2019, you'll see there's an increase in state grants of $30,729. That includes a newly awarded $25,000 grant by our Department of Economic and Community Development. It'll be used for small business training, advertising of events, and business recruitment. The balance of that, $5,729, was a different grant also awarded to our ECD, and that was used, it's still in use, so it's been used to pay for the mural at the building at the Sturgis Moore Field, as well as some cameras at the Public Works facility, some plantings at the farmers market. So it's community-based and safety-based expenditures. So there'll be more to come of that grant. That was a total of $100,000, and some of that was spent in FY 2023. So on page 2, you can see the expenditure allocation, $25,000 to the Department of Economic and Community Development, $1,729 to IT for the cameras, and $4,000 to Parks and Recreation grounds maintenance for the mural. So it's an overall increase of the operating budget of $30,729. Moving toward the bottom of page 3, where the CIP begins. So we've got some changes here. So with the completion of Compton Avenue, which was funded with ARPA funds, that has come to, like I said, it's completed. So we have $196,000 in savings from that street project, which this proposes to reallocate those funds to, at the Department of Public Works facility, renovations to the restrooms of $40,000, additional funds for the athletic court resurfacing and for $48,000. Additional funds were needed for the Riverfront Park pedestrian bridges, $68,000. The trash capture technologies of $40,000. Also on this page, there was the completion of Laurel Avenue, which was funded by highway user revenue. So you'll see the addition of that savings of $71,300 being used to create an infrastructure emergency repair project. So those funds, which because they come from highway user revenue, have to be used on infrastructure and streets, street maintenance. That's why those funds are being used for that. We've had a couple of issues that were needed to address that weren't part of the original CIP. At the top of page 4, you'll see an additional $100,000 being allocated to traffic safety enhancements, and as well as $100,000 to alley improvements. So that's an overall increase to the CIP of oh, I'm sorry, I missed one on page 3. As we made you aware, when we received the ARPA funds, we opened a separate bank account for tracking of that money. As of June 30th, those funds had accrued interest of $562,000. So this ordinance proposes to allocate those funds to the Laurel Multi-Service Center building renovation project. Those funds will be in place as well in case any other state grants become available that require matching funds. So overall, $762,146 increase to the CIP. I'm available for any questions you might have.
Are there any questions or comments on this item before we move forward?
I have a question, Councilman
Councilman DeWalt?
Michelle, if under the budget, I saw a line item for elections. If the council and the mayor don't recognize so far with the union that's vying to represent the DPW workers after they have already gotten over 90% of the DPW workers that have signed up to have them represent them. And we go for an election. Have you budgeted for that, or do you under elections, or do you know exactly how much that elections is going to cost us?
So for Department 220, the elections budget, that's for the election for mayor and city council only.
So you would have to get other monies to pay for the election of, if it goes that far, for the Department of Public Works.
So I'm sorry, would be an election that would have to be held by,
I got it, Ms. Saylor. The money for that is in legal fees, which is already set up. It would be in there.
And do you know how much that is?
Probably depends on if they were to hold the election for 8 hours, it'd be 8 hours times whatever that fee would be. Something like that, or if you did it 2 days. So I don't believe it would be that big of a ticket item, to be honest with you.
Michelle, when you find out what that cost is going to be, could I get the cost of that, please?
okay.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all I have, Mr. President.
I had one question. I saw that there's a ribbon cutting for phase 1. And so I just wanted to see where we were with phase 2 and like when that is expected to be completed.
I don't want to step on Mr. Bailey's toes since he's more,
You might be right. You might be right. That might be his department. I was just curious. I see there's a ribbon cutting coming up for phase 1.
sure,
And
right, that's the gymnasium. Mhm.
Phase 2 will probably be August of 2024.
Okay.
Electrical has put them behind along with other mechanicals.
Okay,
So
sure.
that's in that general area.
Thank you. That's my only question.
All right. Any other comments? Councilman Cole, looks like you took your mic out.
I do. I have a question for Ms. Saylor. So we make these allocations to the budgets. There'll still be bid recommendations that need to come through for some of these items.
Yes, sir. Mhm.
That's what I want to make sure. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. I don't have any questions for you, Director Saylor. Thank you for the work you're doing, as always. And I guess if we have any more questions, we'll have them emailed to you. And I'm sure you'll get us back a quick response. All right. So this item will be on the agenda for Wednesday, October 11th, 2023, at the Mayor and City Council meeting that will be held in person at 6 p.m. Our next agenda item is agenda item number 7, an ordinance of number 2020, an ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of Laurel, Maryland, to amend the Laurel City Code, Chapter 18, Section 21, nuisance and providing for an effective date. Chief Hamill, you have the floor.
Thank you and good evening, President Smith, Mayor Moe, and City Council members. Before you is ordinance number 2020, as required by the City of Laurel Code, providing for legislation. This ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of Laurel seeks to amend Laurel City Code, Chapter 18, Buildings and Building Regulations, Section 21, Nuisance, and provides for an effective date. Respectfully, we request your favorable review and support to amend Laurel City Code, Chapter 18, Section 21, titled Nuisance, by adding language to the code expanding certain emergency authority to the Chief of Police, with noted provisions for implementation of said authority. This adjustment to the code is designed to update this section of the city's code to specifically provide authority under the code that is currently granted only to the Director of FMPS, Fire Marshal, and Chief Building Official, to the Chief of Police. This would allow the Chief of Police the same authority to close a property or business without complying with notification provisions in Chapter B of this code during times where there is an immediate threat to public welfare and safety. This proposed provision helps to further enhance the safety and welfare of our community during crises where there is an immediate threat. It is anticipated that this authority would be exercised very judiciously and only under extreme conditions where the safety and welfare of the public is under immediate and grievous threat. Thank you for your kind consideration of this important legislative matter, and I'm available for any questions you may have.
Are there any questions or comments on this item from the council?
I just have one.
Councilman Mitchell?
Definitely, looks like an interesting bill. I don't think there's many issues here. My biggest concern or just really question, not even concern, was who decides, like who's the final decision on if it is a public safety threat necessarily? Like, is that a coordinated effort? Is it one of these 3 or 4 individuals, or?
It would, Mr. Mitchell, I would envision it would be one of these individuals, depending on what the crisis is. I don't have an expertise in flooding, but that would fall under another person's bailiwick.
I got you.
Although I know to get out of the way of a flood, but
Understood. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you, Chief.
thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the council?
I got one, Mr. President. Is there a chance I could get it either Danny Selby or someone from the fire marshal, chief building official, someone from them, so I can ask them a couple questions concerning this bill? If they're present.
Director Selby, are you there? No? All right, well, maybe Chief can answer something for you?
No, I don't think he's going to be able to do it. I just want to know if, certain circumstances in the building, if it's unsafe for people to be in there. And this is a pretty broad statement being made here. And I can understand what the chief's looking at. He's looking at public safety, and he's looking at safety issues and things like that. But I'm looking at the conditions that the building is in at that particular time. And I don't think the chief is going to be knowledgeable about certain infestations, certain things like that, where he's going to determine that building's not safe for the people in that building. And I just want some questions. If the director of the FMPS or fire marshal or chief building instructor was there, I'm sure he can answer my questions. But if not, I'll ask him at the next meeting.
If I might, Mr. President, first off, the current code that we're referring to here is adding the police chief. The police chief, when we discuss this, is really being added because I think people are seeing what's happening at a lot of the bars in the local neighborhoods. That's really what his is all about, to give them the authority to be able to get in there if there is a issue or there's constant issues, to be able to close them down, and then there's a process for that. The building code, and I see Dan Selby's on, Director Selby. Theirs is going to be whatever is in the code that allows them, and that's numerous things within the code that we've adopted over the years. And that's, I think it's a Southern whatever they call it. But if Dan's on, he can take it from there. But the chief, why we added the chief was really to give that authority on issues that we're all starting to see rise up in different communities in different areas around the DMV. So, Dan?
I had a question. Maybe I'm lost here, and maybe I'm just not watching the news, but what examples of these situations as far as bars would, like, I'm just confused on that point.
Not confusing. It's a lot of if there's shootings, if there is issues regarding constant fights, within an establishment, those types of things. But my point is that the chief of police is not being added to go in and do an inspection. That will be called with the inspectors that handle that piece of it. This is just to provide them the leeway to be able to close down a place if there's an issue. That authority is already there. It's just adding the police chief.
saw Danny's frozen or something. They said something in the comments. He's trying to work on it.
Okay. So we can, Mr. President, if you want, if he gets on frozen, we can come back to that if you want, or we'll get answers. If Mr. Carroll has his questions, we'll get him answers.
Sure. Director Selby, I guess you could just let the clerk know if your through comment, if your computer screen clears up, and worst case scenario, we'll have the questions answered by the administration submitted to Councilman DeWalt. All right, well, so this item will be on the agenda for Wednesday, October 11th, 2023, at the Mayor City Council meeting, the in-person meeting. All right, and the last agenda item we have on here is resolution number 2023, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of Laurel, Maryland to adopt the hazard mitigation plan of Prince George's County as a city official plan. Director Cornwell, you have the floor.
Thank you and good evening, Mr. President, Mayor, and Council members. Before you is resolution number 9-2023, which was developed to comply with the Federal Stafford Act. Development and adoption of the 2023 Prince George's County and City of Laurel Hazard Mitigation Plan is a condition for federal grant assistance. Prince George's County Council adopted this plan on September the 12th. The plan is required to be updated and adopted every 5 years to align mitigation activities to help reduce the impact of natural disasters to Laurel. That's all I have for this evening. So thank you for your time, and I'd be glad to take any questions.
Are there any questions or comments on this item? All right, well, this item will be on the agenda for Wednesday, October 11th, 2023, at the Mayor and City Council meeting that will be held in person at 6 p.m. Director Selby, was he able to get his computer screen unfrozen or working? No.
It's showing up on my screen, but I can't hear anything and no.
Yeah, Mr. President, he was trying to log in with his phone, but I don't think he's had any success yet.
Okay. Well, Councilman DeWalt, I guess you can either ask your questions live. The administration will get back to you, and of course submit a written.
No problem.
A written
Mr. President.
question. You'll get a written response. So.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. Well, there being no further business to come before the Mayor and City Council, this meeting is adjourned.
Record.